All right, we are back now with something that we love to do. Mental health matters, and this is your midweek mental health boost, our free therapy, Scott.
Absolutely. We want to know the best for our kids, but did you know that there are subtle things that you are doing that are actually causing your kids to have anxiety? No good?
You mean when we nag them and ask them and
I don't know
worry
about
all the
that.
time?
I think,
I'm
yeah,
worried
who
about this,
knows?
I'm worried about that, don't do this, don't do that.
Exactly.
Joining us is our friend Dr. Laura Saunders, a psychologist at the Institute of Living, also a mom of two. Hi, Dr. Saunders.
Hello, friends. Happy Wednesday. And yes, we are actually talking about how parents can do things that worsen their children's anxiety.
So what is this? Is this transference?
Or it's the way we behave.
It's a little bit of both, really. I mean, when you as a parent have your own anxiety, so this is a really significant one. When you have your own anxiety that you're not managing, that you're not acknowledging, identifying, managing, yes, it gets projected onto your children, and then they, may have the underlying vulnerability towards anxiety, and then they carry that anxiety and have less tools than you have as an adult to manage it.
Okay, so here's the thing. We sometimes are, you said I guess, does it mean we're enabling them? If we allow them to avoid the things that they're anxious about, that's actually not good?
Right. So what we don't want to do is overly encourage avoidance. A lot of kids in the morning have stomach aches or headaches or arm aches or all sorts of aches and pains that often is a manifestation of anxiety. Now, I'm not saying that their stomach doesn't hurt or their head doesn't hurt or their arm doesn't hurt. It does hurt. However, it's not a sign of a deeper medical issue. It's a sign that they still need to go to school. They still need to manage those feelings. You can have a little cough drop. You can have whatever it is, a little Tums, something. This will help you feel better. But saying, okay, just stay home because it's too hard to sort of manage that is only going to make that anxiety worse and fuel that avoidance.
Very interesting. All right, shying away from conversations about feelings?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's about talking about difficult things. And when you see your child struggling over the course of days or weeks and not trying to address it correctly, I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon if you say to your child, you really seem to be struggling for the last few weeks. What's going on? And they're like, I don't know.
But
it doesn't mean you just give up.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't dig a little deeper. Like, I've noticed that you haven't done things with friends in a while, or you've been not wanting to go to practice or do your other activities, right? To really kind of dig deeper and to do it, not that infrequently, so that your child knows you are willing to talk about difficult things.
Okay, and so we want to talk about feeling things because then we can actually release them and they don't become as physical. What about the overly cautious? Okay, I'm going to call out my mother-in-law. I love her, but she's probably not watching the show. But don't do this, you'll die if you eat that. Did you read about that person who walked into the water and then got a flesh-eating bacteria? Like, all the worst case scenarios. I know it comes from a good place, but when we're constantly telling them what not to do because it could hurt them, that's not necessarily the most productive when it comes to anxiety.
There's no learning that takes place if you are wrapped in plastic in your bedroom and never leave, right? There's no learning. So you need to be able to do things. We need to allow some failure experiences. Now, it doesn't need to be like the 1800s where there was a lot of bad things happen, but something in between where you allow your children to try different things. And again, I'm not talking about huge safety issues or huge risk issues, but to do things and try things. I mean, we saw this a lot during, the first 18 months of COVID, when parents really did want to wrap their children in plastic and not let them out of the house.
Yeah.
They need to try things. They need to get out of the house.
All right. It says refusing to cope with your own anxiety can also raise that level for your kids.
Right. This is a really important thing to do, is to acknowledge your own anxiety. Be careful that you're not projecting your own anxiety onto your children, like don't do this and don't do that, like that overly cautious approach. Acknowledge what you're anxious about, acknowledge what your vulnerabilities are, so that you don't perpetuate that in your children.
Okay, and you also say don't send mixed messages. What do you mean?
So sometimes you're overly cautious, sometimes you're letting them do whatever, right? So you go from one extreme to another. So it's just being careful that you are keeping your own anxiety in check, managing your expectations, giving them some, some freedom, some ability to learn and make mistakes, and not being sort of one extreme or the other and going back and forth, because that just creates chaos.
We're going to take a deeper dive on the Kara's Cures TV show and podcast. Only 30 seconds, but real important for parents to know. Sometimes girls might be more inward, but boys' anxiety can show up as anger. Is that right?
Absolutely. As a general rule, females tend to be more internalizers. They hold things in. Males tend to be more externalizers. They project it out in anger and aggression or outward irritability.
That is the absolute truth.
Yeah, well, sometimes I was noticing in my son, when he get really angry, and then I thought, until I learned that, I'm like, oh, that could just be being afraid of
When I was going with my breakup with Paul. I was completely anxious, and what did I do? I got angry.
But not at me. I tried to help.
No, I know. I'm just saying. All right, thanks, Doc.
We need some therapy. He's having bad dreams,
I'm
Doc.
having bad dreams, Doc. You got to help me.
I can help.
All right,
Okay,
good.
thank
I'm
you.
going to call you. All right, up next on this Wednesday afternoon, take a dip in the frigid water for a good cause. The 14th annual Plunge for Hunger is happening in Eastern Connecticut this weekend. We're going to learn all about it and how you can get involved.
And our recipe of the week, sure to be a crowd pleaser. We're making homemade Hot Pockets.
Oh, yum.
Ooh, I love those. Those are my after-school snack in high school.
See Rayo's there. That's
Yeah, this is
exciting.
going to be a little healthier than the ones that came in the silver microwave thing. All right. Great day, Connecticut. We'll be right back.